Hello, everyone. Good to see you, Eren. How are you? And we have Trickstar as well. Hello, guys. Let's set up some treasure chests, shall we? To set this off. So, today is another one of our Billionaire Bedtime Stories series. And yesterday we were talking about the assets and liabilities and all of the investment stuff. Actually, let me try and use now. Alrighty, welcome everyone. So, your scorecard. Yesterday we looked through we looked at not getting into your house straight away, but instead investing first. And this is one. These were some of our highlights. So we looked at the income statements and balance sheets of poor people, rich people, and the middle class. Now, let's read some of the latest highlights. I really don't expect most people to agree with it because your home is an emotional thing, and when it comes to money, high emotions tend to lower financial intelligence. I know from personal experience that money has a way of making every decision emotional. So we were discussing the idea of postponing buying your own house to live in for as long as possible and instead using that time and money to invest into better options like buying an investment property. The greatest losses of all are those from missed opportunities, as we discussed, and then our latest highlights were this. I'm not saying don't buy a house. What I'm saying is that you should understand the difference between an asset and a liability. When I want a bigger house, I first buy assets that will generate the cash flow to pay for the house. All right, so how do I understand what is an asset and what's a liability? We call it keep it straight and simple, right? So, how can we keep it straight and simple? Asset is anything that puts money in your pocket. So, anything that generates income in the long term, anything that generates cash flow, that is an asset. A liability, in that sense, is something that takes money away from you. So, something that requires spending money to maintain it or to use it or loses value over a long term. That is a liability. So, that's how we differentiate between assets and liabilities. And the difference between the poor, the middle class, and the rich is that the poor will not even care about assets and liabilities. They have an income and they can barely keep up with their expenses. These are the poor people. Then we have the middle class who have the same income or similar income, but then they spend on liabilities which they think are assets, like their car, their house, the big TV. And then on top of that, they also have the expenses. So again, they have nothing, not much left of their income. And then the rich people, they focus on buying assets first. So when they want to have a liability, they first think of buying assets to cover those liabilities or to cover those expenses. And that's the difference between the rich, middle class, and poor mindset. And then the last highlight of yesterday was the scorecard. Without a financial statement, you don't really know where you are in life's financial game. Like it or not, money tells the score of your game, and a financial statement is your scorecard. Banks want financial statements, income statement, and balance sheet to know how well you're scoring in your life's financial game. And this is what we're going to be doing a lot when we start playing these financial games that I was talking about, I think, 2 days ago. I think that's the best way to learn, not just for kids, for anyone, really, is to play financial games. And it's much easier to understand assets and liabilities, cash flow, expenses, income, all of these things, return on investment, while playing a game. Zero risk and quick learning. Oh, wow. Let me get back to chats. I think this was a good summary of what we did yesterday. And we can continue with today's topic, but let me just quickly catch up on the chats. Harun, welcome. And he's asking how much your average need to be to go to next year. Come on. He's scared he might fail. You'll be all right, Harun. Let's look at this chat here. Mr. There's only 20 left for the goal. Yes. Ren, Chris. Choguzel. Okay, spam likes. Thank you. Shares. Are shares an asset? Yes. Anything that puts money in your pocket in forms of dividends or appreciates over time, which means increases in value. If you choose the right shares, yes, they are an asset. They are considered capital, something that increases over time. And thanks for all the gifts, guys. Shubar, that legit Seb guy, and Chris, thank you for the gifts. Let's set up another treasure chest, shall we? So, I don't think we're gonna do any more goodie bags, isn't it? We're just gonna keep using treasure chest now. Alrighty. My educated dad's personal financial statement best demonstrates the life of someone caught in the rat race. His expenses match his income, never allowing him enough left over to invest in assets. As a result, his liabilities are larger than his assets. The following diagram on the left shows my poor dad's income statement. It is worth 1,000 words. It shows that his income and expenses are equal, while his liabilities are larger than his assets. My rich dad's personal financial statement on the right reflects the results of a life dedicated to investing and minimizing liabilities. So let's look at this picture here. On the left, we can see the poor dad's financial statement. He's got income, but his expenses also offset all of his income. He's got a little bit of assets, but mostly liabilities. Now, the rich dad's financial statement is the opposite. He's got income, which is big enough to cover all of his expenses, and he's got way more assets than he's got liabilities. And this is where understanding your current financial situation really starts. And I think every person should be able to read and understand these because this is your starting point. Why the rich get richer. A review of my rich dad's financial statement shows why the rich get richer. The asset column generates more than enough income to cover expenses, with the balance reinvested into the asset column. The asset column continues to grow, and therefore the income it produces grows with it. The results is that the rich get richer. So it's literally by design. Like there is no other way. Because they keep reinvesting in assets, and assets are way more bigger than liabilities, which means they produce more income than liabilities generate expenses. And the dispensable income or disposable income, which means the income that is left after covering all of the expenses, keeps getting reinvested back into the assets. Now let's look at the middle class. Why the middle class struggle? The middle class finds itself in a constant state of financial struggle. Their primary income is through their salary. As their wages increase, so do their taxes. Their expenses tend to increase in proportion to their salary increase, hence the phrase the rat race. They treat their home as their primary asset instead of investing in income-producing assets. So this is the story of the middle class. They have income, they have expenses that match their income, and the liabilities are more than the assets, which means they're not gonna reach, they're not getting any richer, and hopefully they're not getting any poorer. Now, this pattern of treating your income as an investment and the philosophy that a pay rise means you can buy a larger home or spend more is the foundation of today's debt-ridden society. Increased spending throws families into greater debt and into more financial uncertainty, even though they may be advancing in their jobs and receiving pay raises. This is high risk living caused by weak financial education. Now, how is the situation today? Pension plans. Since Enron, it has become clear that pension plans are in trouble. Even government pension plans, such as those in Greece, Italy, and California, cannot pay out what is owed to retirees. So a retirement plan is no longer the guarantee it once was of security for old age and retirement. When the stock market crashed in 2009, anyone about to retire was in trouble, even if they had saved in their 401k, RRSP, or superannuation. The situation is actually even worse in Australia compared to the US because you can only depend on your own super fund and there's very little money to receive from the government. Now, the massive loss of jobs. Okay, I'm just checking on the treasure chest and who collected the coins. Ah, it was just Eren. Okay. So we'll set up another one. Alrighty. Let's continue. The massive loss of jobs in recent times proves how shaky the middle class really is financially. Company pension plans are being replaced by 401k plans. Social Security is obviously in trouble and can't be relied upon as a source for retirement. Panic has set in for the middle class. Today, mutual funds are popular because they supposedly represent safety. Average mutual fund buyers are too busy working to pay taxes and mortgages, save for their children's college, and pay off credit cards. They do not have time to study investing, so they rely on the expertise of the manager of a mutual fund. Also, because the mutual fund includes many different types of investments, they feel their money is safer because it is diversified. This educated middle class subscribes to the dogma put out by mutual fund brokers and financial planners. Play it safe and avoid risk. Excuse me. So I think I wanted to highlight something here with regards to the reach. Um, let's highlight this. This just explains why the rich get richer. I'm not even going to highlight anything else with regards to the middle class and the poor people. All right, let's talk about the real tragedy here. The real tragedy is that the lack of early financial education is what creates the risk faced by average middle class people. The reason they have to play it safe is because their financial positions are tenuous at best. Their balance sheets are not balanced. Instead, they are loaded with liabilities and have no real assets that generate income. Typically, their only source of income is their paycheck. Their livelihood becomes entirely dependent on their employer. So when genuine deals of a lifetime come along, these people can't take advantage of them because they are working so hard, are taxed to the max, and are loaded with debt. Let me highlight this. Okay. So The lack of early financial education. And that's why we are doing what we're doing right now. I really want you guys to have a chance to have that financial education and avoid the risk faced by most average middle class people. That's what we're trying to achieve here. I want you to be financially informed. Oh my God, we have Shub Bar who just became a super fan. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And we have some gifts. Ran sent me a rose. Thank you very much. And Shubhar sent some fest pops. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I really appreciate the superfan subscription. That is amazing. Let's send another treasure chest. What? No one collected the previous one. Why? Why? How is that? Should I let me do another? I'll just do one goodie bag, guys. I know you don't want me to, but let's just do a goodie bag. All you gotta do is share this life with someone who you think will benefit from it. All right. As I said at the start of this section, the most important rule is to know the difference between an asset and a liability. Once you understand the difference, concentrate your efforts on buying income generating assets. That's the best way to get started on a path to becoming rich. Keep doing that, and your asset column will grow. Keep liabilities and expenses down so more money is available to continue pouring into the asset column. Soon, the asset base will be so deep that you can afford to look at more speculative investments, investments that may have returns of 100% to infinity. $5,000 investments that are soon turned into $1 million or more. Investments that the middle class calls too risky. The investment is not risky for the financially literate. And this is another important point here. When genuine deals of a lifetime come along, the average people can't take advantage of them because they're working so hard, are taxed to the max. And are loaded with that. If you do what the masses do, you get the following picture. You have the income that you get from working for the company, which is your salary. You have your expenses because you're working literally for the government and supporting the government with your taxes. Your liabilities is what works for the bank because you keep paying those fees, interest on mortgage and car loans and whatnots. And nothing is basically working for you. You spend your time to get income, you pay taxes to support the government, and you have liabilities that support the bank. What's left for yourself? Nothing. As an employee who is also a homeowner, your working efforts are generally as follows. First is you work for the company. Employees make their business owner or the shareholders rich, not themselves. Your efforts and success will help provide for the owner's success and retirement. Second is you work for the government. The government takes its share from your paycheck before you even see it. By working harder, you simply increase the amount of taxes taken by the government. Most people work from January to May just for the government. Can you just imagine January to May? So basically in Australia on average your taxes are about 30% depending on your income and it goes up to 40 50 40 to 45%. So let's take the average of 30%. If your taxes are 30%, which means out of the 12 months you're working for the governments for 3.5 months. Can you imagine? So January, February, March, and even a bit of April. All that time you just work for your taxes. How does that feel? And then, as if that wasn't enough, you also work for the bank. After taxes, your next largest expense is usually your mortgage or your rental expenses and your credit card debt. The problem with simply working harder is that each of these three levels takes a greater share of your increased efforts. You need to learn how to have your increased efforts benefit you and your family directly. Once you have decided to concentrate on minding your own business, focusing your efforts on acquiring assets instead of a bigger paycheck, how do you set your goals? Most people must keep their job and rely on their wages to fund their acquisition of assets. But as their assets grow, how do they measure the extent of their success? When does someone know that they're rich, that they have wealth? And this is a very good question, which I have been asking you guys. How do you actually know who is rich and who isn't? How do you understand that, okay, I'm rich now? And what are you aiming for? Let's try and understand this. In the meantime, congratulations to Chris and Eren. Oh, and thank you for the gifts, guys. I'll do it again. Alrighty. As well as as well as having my own definitions for assets and liabilities, I also have my own definition for wealth. Actually, I borrowed it from a man named R. Buckminster Fuller. Some call him a quack, and others call him a genius. Years ago, he got architects buzzing because he applied for a patent for something called a geodesic dome. But in the application, Fuller also said something about wealth. It was pretty confusing at first, but after reading it, it began to make some sense. And read this carefully, and if you can, write it down. Hi, Zahid. Good to see you guys. And I think we lost Harun. Anyways, you can watch the replay. So please listen carefully. This is a very good definition of what being wealthy or being rich actually means. And this is what I wanted to hear from you guys whenever I was asking it. Wealth or being rich. Wealth is a person's ability to survive so many number of days forward. Or if I stopped working today, how long could I survive? So that's the definition of being rich or wealthy. It means that you don't have to work to sustain your life. So basically, what they call financial freedom or financial independence is when the income generated by your assets is enough to cover all of your expenses and then some, which means you don't have to work a day in your life from that point forward. So if I stopped working today, how long could I survive? That's the real definition of wealth. Unlike net worth, which is the difference between your assets and liabilities and is often filled with a person's expensive junk and opinions of what things are worth, this definition creates the possibility for developing a truly accurate measurement. I could now measure and know where I was in terms of my goal to become financially independent. Please understand. Everyone asking me in class what my net worth is, how much money I have, what does it matter? It does not matter. What matters is how long can you survive if you stop working today and stop receiving a salary. Although net worth often includes non-cash producing assets like stuff you bought that now sits in your garage, wealth measures how much money your money is making and therefore your financial survivability. Wealth is the measure of the cash flow from the asset column compared with the expense column. So that's what real wealth, that's what real richness is. And I hope you can explain it to your friends who keep asking me the wrong questions. Let's use an example. Let's say I have cash flow from my asset column of $1,000 a month, and I have monthly expenses of $2,000. What's my wealth? Let's go back to Buckminster Fuller's definition. Using his definition, how many days forward can I survive? Assuming a 30-day month, I have enough cash flow for half a month. When I achieve $2,000 a month cash flow from my assets, then I will be wealthy, which means if he's got $2,000 expenses and his assets, his capital generates $2,000 of income, he's equal, which means he can carry on this lifestyle for as long as needed. But ideally, you would want a little bit more than your expenses. Yeah. So, how is the situation today? Wealth and cash reserves. Today, few people have enough money to live on for even 1 month. Most Americans, for example, have less than $400 in savings. A more staggering statistic reported in a 2016 Geo Banking Rates survey, 34% of Americans have no savings at all. Few people could survive for very long without a paycheck or government assistance. So, while I'm not yet rich, I am wealthy. I now have income generated from assets each month that fully cover my monthly expenses. If I want to increase my expenses, I first must increase my cash flow to maintain this level of wealth. Also note that it is at this point that I'm no longer dependent on my wages. I have focused on and been successful in building an asset column that has made me financially independent. If I quit my job today, I would be able to cover my monthly expenses with the cash flow from my assets. My next goal would be to have the excess cash flow from my assets reinvested into the asset column. The more money that goes into my asset column, the more my asset column grows. The more my assets grow, the more my cash flow grows. And as long as I keep my expenses less than the cash flow from these assets, I grow richer with more and more income from sources other than my physical labor. As this reinvestment process continues, I'm well on my way to becoming rich. Just remember this simple observation. The rich buy assets, the poor only have expenses, the middle class buy liabilities they think are assets. So, how is that? Are you guys getting what we're talking about here? And Zahid, congratulations on getting the 4 coins. Please type in your questions if you have any. And I think we will be ending the stream in about 10 to 15 minutes. We are what? We are 29% through the book, I think. Oh, Abjan, welcome. Good to see you again. Thanks to your wise words, my exam went well. Oh my God, I'm so happy for you. So, if there's no questions, let's continue. So, how do I start minding my own business? What is the answer? Listen to the founder of McDonald's in the next chapter. Oh, wow. Chapter 2, lesson 2. Oh, sorry, this is a study session. Good, good, good. This is not the next chapter. This is just the study session. So let's do this quick study session so that tomorrow we can continue with chapter 3. All right. We revisit Robert and Mike some 3.5 decades later. Mike has taken over his father's company and is doing an even better job than the rich dad did. As for Robert, he retired in 1994 at the age of 47. His and his wife's wealth is growing automatically like a well-established tree. He shares a story of the 1923 meeting of some of our greatest leaders and richest businessmen. Men who owned the largest steel and gas company, who ran the New York Stock Exchange, and who sat on President Harding's cabinet. 25 years later, most of their lives had ended tragically, with the men either broke, exiled, or in prison. The 1929 stock crash and Great Depression likely played a part in their fates, but today we live in a time of even more turmoil and change than they did. More important than money to our survival is our education and the ability to learn. Let me highlight this, please. Everyone keeps asking, should we, you know, not pay attention to school, or are grades important? While, like we discussed with Akjan yesterday, grades might not be important, but your education is very much important. So, your ability to learn, your education, your financial literacy is what's gonna make or break it for you. It's not how much you make, but how much you keep and how many generations you keep it. And that's the definition of wealth, another definition of wealth right there. So when people ask Robert where to start getting rich, he gives them the same answer his rich dad gave him. If you want to be rich, you need to be financially literate. Let me highlight this as well. I'll use the same phrase. Because when people ask me what to invest, how to become rich, I just say, if you don't know where to invest, that's the first thing that you need to invest in. It means you need to first understand what investment is, how it works, which investments are the best ones. And if I can ask the chat here, what do you think is the best type of investment? What's the best type of investment? Please, let's put it in the chat. Apologies. What is one type of investment that you do once and then it requires little to no money, maybe your time and dedication, but it keeps compounding and accumulating and delivering throughout your whole life? What's that one type of investment that is done once, requires little to no money, just your time and dedication, and then it stays with you until the rest of your until the last breath? It stays with you. No one can take it away from you. No financial crisis, no catastrophe can take it away from you. For as long as you have your health, you will have that investment with you. What is that? What is that one type of investment? And we have another wave of bots coming in. By the way, moderators, I think you can now I think you have the ability to block these bots now, the moderators. The bots joined because we had a goodie bag open. That's why. So, please tell me, what's the one type of investment? Robert compares the way many people act to building a skyscraper on a slab made for a small home. Because kids graduate school with little financial education, they launch into their adults adult lives chasing the American dream but find themselves deep in debt. The only way out that they can see is a get rich strategy. But without having that financial literacy background, their efforts are like building a skyscraper on a weak foundation, and instead of creating the Empire State Building, they end up with the Leaning Tower of Suburbia. Robert and his childhood friend Mike, however, were given a strong foundation worthy of a skyscraper thanks to the teachings of the rich dad. Accounting as a subject is boring, confusing, and absolutely crucial to financial success. To make it accessible to kids, Rich Dad used pictures to teach it to the boys. Only later did he start adding numbers to guide the boys through key concepts. Rule number one, Robert says, is that you must know the difference between an asset and a liability and only buy assets. That's all you need to know. But despite it being so simple, it is something that many people don't understand. And let me highlight this again and again and again. And thanks for the gifts, Shubar and Chris. Alrighty. By the way, in the previous live stream, we had Vedat as our top gifter, and I am not sure why I didn't see that, and I wish moderators had reminded me. Alrighty, when Rich Dad first explained it to the two now teenagers, they thought he was kidding. How could adults not understand this? Shouldn't everyone be rich? The problem is that most people have been educated differently by bankers, financial planners, and others, so they must unlearn what they think they know. Some find this demeaning to return to such a basic introduction. The true definitions of asset and liability lie not in words, but in numbers. Robert uses drawings to help readers the same way Rich Dad used them to help him. This is the cash flow pattern of an asset. The top part of the diagram is an income statement, often called a profit and loss statement. It measures income and expenses, money in and money out. The lower part of the diagram is a balance sheet. It's called that because it's supposed to balance assets against liabilities. So, this is the income statement and balance sheet of a rich person, right? And then, so here we see assets generate income and they put the money in your pocket. This is the diagram showing liabilities. Liabilities take money away from you via expenses. This is the cash flow pattern of a liability. A liability takes money out of your pocket. Want to be rich? Buy assets. It seems simple, but so many people struggle because they buy liabilities. If you want to gain and maintain wealth, you must build your understanding. It's not just straight numbers, it's how the numbers tell a story. Follow the arrows in each of these diagrams to see where the money is flowing, or cash flow. It will tell you the story, the plot of that financial situation. This is the cash flow pattern of a poor person. All the income goes out via expenses with not much left. This is the cash flow pattern of a person in the middle class. So, there's a mix up in the diagrams. So this is the cash flow of a rich person. Assets generate income. And this is the cash flow pattern of a middle class. So the income is used to buy liabilities, which create expenses, and again, money goes out. Through these simplified diagrams, the cash flow tells the story of how each person handles money. Often, those in debt think the answer is to make more money. Often, but not only will more money not always solve their problems, it may compound them. It's why many people who get a sudden windfall through the lottery or an inheritance, for instance, so quickly burn through it. An increase in cash only results in an increase in spending. What is missing for so many people is a financial education. It's why they might end up successful in their professions but still struggling with money. They may have learned how to make money but not how to manage it. People can be very intelligent and still be illiterate when it comes to finances. They learned how to work hard for money, but not how to make their money work hard for them. And let me highlight this again. Oh, actually, no, I want to highlight the whole thing. Robert tells the story of a young couple who get married and start their lives together. Their incomes begin to increase, but so do their expenses. The couple is hit with the number one expense for most people, taxes. And for many people, it's not income tax that gives the biggest hit, but Social Security. It is roughly 15%. I mean, this is for America, so we can skip this. And that's where we've learned what rat race is. For this couple and so many like them, their true problem is not knowing how to handle the money they have. It's caused by financial illiteracy and not understanding the true difference between an asset and a liability. So many people don't take the time to question whether something makes sense and simply follow the crowd. Often, they mindlessly repeat what they have been told. Diversify. Your home is an asset. You get a tax break for going into greater debt. Get a safe job. Don't make mistakes. Don't take risks. Because of the large amount of time Robert and Mike spent sitting in on meetings with Rich Dad and learning from the intelligent people he surrounded himself with, they learned a lot and learned to question the standard dogma taught at their school. It began to cause problems and made them grow distant from their teachers. All right. Still believe that their home is an asset. Yes, we discussed this, but there are enough assets to generate more than enough income. Let's just highlight this. The middle class gets stuck in the rat race because they treat their home as an asset instead of investing in income producing assets. They are also stuck because their salary is their primary source of income, and thus, when their income increases, so do their taxes. Then we discussed about mutual funds, and we also said that because the middle class don't have disposable income, which means they don't have much income exceeding their expenses, they can't take they can't make use of all the opportunities. Alrighty, I'll do this last highlight. Oh, we're gonna be rich, mister, says Nam. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you here. It's been 45 minutes. I think this is enough for today's session. And Shubhar is also going, my moderator, which means maybe it's time for us to finish as well. We can finish this quick summary tomorrow. And thanks to everyone who has joined. We still have 5 viewers. We have added one follower, 4,500 likes. Thank you. Thank you, guys. It was good to see you, and I hope we see you again tomorrow. And just a reminder that on Saturdays, we're gonna have a special live stream where I will answer all of your questions that you have. So, thanks.